Okay, this is the Wednesday, November 5th, 2025 meeting of the Portsmouth Energy Advisory Committee. I'll call the roll. Peter Somsich. Here. Ben D'Antonio. Present. Betsy Blaisdell
Here.
and Kevin Charette.
Here remotely.
Okay. And Councilor Cook has a conflict tonight. Tracy Cameron is not present. Tom Rooney is not available. He wrote to us. So according to the state statute, we need to have an in-person quorum. We have a quorum, but not in person. So this will be a work session, not a meeting, and we cannot take votes. Also with us is Fred Calcineri from the Sustainability Committee. And I'll get us started. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
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 Okay. Any changes? We can't vote them tonight. We'll have to vote them in the December meeting, but the no changes, we'll postpone that for next month.
Don't have any changes.
And I think our big item of business tonight is I wanted to share with you the draft ordinance that the legal department developed for us to make PX permanent. This was the council voted to have the ordinance come up for first reading the November 17th meeting, and as part of that vote, I shared a short 2-page of slides on the things we've done this year, which I put in the pack. And you know, it was really heartening to go back and look at the amount of work the committee's done. So I'll just run through that. We were reinstated in February of 2024 by the mayor, and as you recall, we had a priority setting meeting. We did some discussion. We brainstormed our priorities, and then we did a group voting exercise. We discussed a draft mission to give a lower cost, lower carbon energy future to our residents. And then we formed some working groups and right away went into our top priority, a municipal solar. We researched what happens in Hanover. Betsy Blaisdell was helpful in that. And then we also, with Herb Lloyd's help, initiated discussions with National Renewable Energy Lab, and they did a no-cost evaluation, as you remember, of green energy sourcing for the 2 wastewater treatment plants that we have. Betsy, in July of 2024, you did the solar conversations, which was great, well attended. Lots of people learned a lot about residential solar power. And we also launched the Green Energy Challenge, which was a contest between 6 or 7 of the community power towns to see who could opt up the most to green power. We won the contest. The results were small but meaningful. And we also, Tracy Cameron led some button-up workshops with Eversource, ways to reduce energy. And then towards the end of 2024 and into this year, we began more serious discussions around a solar array at the Jones Avenue landfill. We had David Sharples visit us and explain what happened with the Exeter project, how they were able to develop a more than 1 megawatt project. And Councillor Cook and I and Councillor Denton passed a policy motion to explore the feasibility of solar at Jones Avenue. We also talked with the city's energy efficiency contractor, EEI, about ways that we can make these buildings more efficient. The big challenge being City Hall with its older heating and cooling systems. We went back to the council in June to get some funding for Jones Avenue to help develop an RFP for solar developers. That was successful. We didn't add funds to the budget. We repurposed some funds that had been set aside for electric charging stations, which, as you might have seen, Piscataqua Bank just had their downtown's first level 3 charger. The city was a happy bystander to that. And then we spent a lot of time last July preparing our community and our ratepayers for the higher rates that CPC&H had to charge. Did the best we could to give background on that. And then into the fall, we've got our National Renewable Energy Lab report. Very good detailed analysis. Along and short of it was the bigger the turbine, the more efficient and better the payback. But we were concerned that community opinion would really not handle a 100-foot turbine yourself. That's the reality. Then in October, we met with Jackson Kaspari, Andrew Martin of CPC&H for a detailed question and answer session about the reason that the reserves went away and coalition got itself in a negative reserve position and is now working their way out of that. And I think our members asked very pointed and well-educated questions. More discussion to have on that. And after we'd made the agenda up, Jackson Kaspari wrote to me and said that they would like to come back and give us more detailed information on some of the questions that were asked. Specifically, Kevin, around your questions, how are we identifying and communicating to lower income households? And also some questions on the financial outlook moving forward. So I wasn't able, given the timing and election day, to have them come tonight, but we can have them come. So, and I think I would recommend to the committee that we do that. I think they're eager to follow up on some of the questions that we had. So that's a quick look at what the committee's done.
Excellent summary.
Well,
Just one item, Councillor. I assume back in February, we probably had some level of communication too on the Eversource, how our rates compare to Eversource. Because they switched twice during the year.
That's correct. Yes. And I think we discussed,
And that was actually the first time we were
right.
higher than Eversource.
Yes, yes, that was when Eversource had some credits that were able to apply and lower their rate.
Well, it was also when they had the issue with the
Yeah,
CPC&H had the issue with the power purchase agreement.
right. That was where the balance began. And I missed that in my summary, but you're right, Kevin. That's in the notes.
Yeah, that. Beyond that, I mean, it's a pretty impressive list.
It's an energetic committee. Yeah. All credit goes to the members. The individual members like Betsy and Tracy just took things on with their own initiative, and that's great. Great for the city. I would also, just in Jackson's correspondence with me, going back to that, he sent me some links to slides that were presented at the annual meeting of CPCNH, and it gives the whole financial outlook in a couple of slides. So I'll forward that to everybody. Thank you. Yeah. That can be reading for our December meeting when we come back to this.
And Counselor, just while we're still, I don't think we have CPC&H so much on the agenda today, but yeah, I try to go back and look at their board packets, and maybe something you could reach out to Jackson on is, I think the latest CPC&H board packet on their website is their July board meeting. And there's been several board meetings since then. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot, but if there was a way we could get their board packets in a timely manner each month, I think it would be helpful, particularly as they're working through their kind of recovery. It'd be good for our committee to kind of just have eyes on their material, which they're very transparent in terms of sharing a lot of information in terms of what's going on. And they put together kind of a recovery plan, and they have a KPI approach, red, green, yellow type of thing in terms of how they're progressing. But it would be good if either through Jackson or through Tom, we could get their board packets in a timely manner. And I would just advise them to be posting, I think through the right to know, they need to be posting that stuff on their website. And the last one I see is the July board meeting.
Absolutely. I think that would be much needed transparency.
Yeah. And it's a lot of good information. They're doing, they got a lot of good stuff going on beyond just, digging out of the, some of the issues.
Right.
Thank you.
You bet. You bet. Further discussion around history? A look back. I think it was helpful for the council. Undergirded the successful vote we had to have this ordinance come forward. So after we gave you a draft of this ordinance to make the committee permanent, and you had a lot of good input. So we tried to reflect that in the final draft. But in essence, the committee would consist of one counselor appointed by the mayor to serve term 2 years, and then 7 community members, each serving 3-year terms, a member of the sustainability committee. such as Fred is here tonight. And that was our discussion about the two committees should interlock. And as attrition causes the number of community members to drop below 7, the mayor will appoint with council approval new members to 3-year staggered terms. And thereafter, a minimum of 5, maximum of 7 community members. So the scope of work is operations of community power to include recommendations for local projects and what the joint powers agreement can be used to do to benefit residents, community power related issues, ways to reduce municipal energy costs and greenhouse gas emissions, technical advice on city energy efficiency strategies and options, city energy procurement, education of the community on energy efficiency and carbon reduction strategies, technical advice on energy strategies, electrification, and local resource development. And 10-word description of us. So that is the ordinance as it stands. And I wanted to share it all with you to make sure everybody's comfortable with it. Whether we should modify it at all before we go to first reading. I think we've got everybody's info pretty good. Ben?
In the mission, give is a tough verb.
Yeah.
I would suggest advance
Okay.
or something of that nature.
Okay.
Because
Advocate for.
something that suggests that that's what we're trying to do,
We don't
but
have the opportunity.
achieve and give and accomplish are challenging verbs in a mission statement.
So how about
Support might be reasonable.
to advocate for?
I like
Yeah,
advocate.
advocate for, yeah. That's true, because we're an advisory committee. Everybody like advocate?
Yes.
Okay,
Great.
all right. We'll make sure that's what goes to the council.
Councilor Tabor?
Yes.
The meeting packet that includes, the section of the meeting packet that includes the slide, orientation there, talks about our accomplishments, talks about our priorities, and then briefly reviews the membership.
Mhm.
I'm not sure that those are the accurate experiences.
Okay.
I know mine's inaccurate.
Okay.
I think Betsy is maybe at one time, but that's accurate, but I think she's a hot shot at a consulting firm.
Let's go through them.
Right.
So kind of you, Ben.
Hey, you're a giant in my mind, Betsy.
Oh, do
Betsy-
go on. Thank
Betsy
you.
was my boss when I interned in law school.
Oh, is that right?
So
It
he's
goes way
indebted to
back.
say nice things about me at all times.
I don't know.
Even-
I'm a straight shooter, Betsy.
So
Thanks,
what
Ben.
should we say for you, Ben?
Yeah, so I'm a director, not a VP.
Okay.
And I never worked for ISO New England, but I've been working with them for almost 2 decades, so I would say maybe director instead of VP, and then formerly energy analyst and attorney for New England States Committee on Electricity.
Got that. Stefan.
Thank you.
Great. Kevin, you're okay, or we need to brush yours up a little?
I was trying to get off mute. I'm fine. I'm fine.
Peter? That's fine. Betsy, what's the latest and greatest title that you now have?
So I'm Director of Decarbonization at Guidehouse.
Okay. And I'll check in with Tom and Tracy.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Yeah. But I'm excited to have the committee not be reappointed based on who's the elected council 2 years.
And I think, Counselor, you probably need to check with Tracy, because I
I'll check.
don't know, I thought she left Sears. Maybe she's doing some consulting back with them, but I didn't think she was employed with them anymore. I don't know,
Okay,
but
I'll
just check with her, yeah.
great. Will do. And further input or discussion on the proposed ordinance? Looks like we're good to go.
Yep.
So Counselor Cook and I will bring it forward.
I have a question. The
Yeah.
Sustainability Committee representative, that's not part of the quorum, is that correct? In other words, it's not a voting member? Or is it?
You mean in the future on the new committee or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good question.
Yeah, who is a voting member? Are the city council a voting member? Seem to be all treated equally here.
Yeah. That's a good question, Fred. The counselors have in the past been voting members.
But it'd be good to clarify that for forum purposes.
Right. Well, we could have the sustainability committee member, a voting member or ex officio. I tend to think.
Me too.
That's my read of how this reads.
Counselor Cook is the best at governance. I'll check in with her, but I think that it would make sense to have that interlocking position have a vote, to me at least.
Counselor, there's just a thought. If we have one member of the Sustainability Committee, it seems like there's a high probability from time to time we wouldn't have a Sustainability Committee member at the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So is there any thought to how to administer that? You know, would there be a backup member or something, or does it not matter? You know, given just one, there's going to be from time to time, we don't have that representation in a meeting.
Yeah,
Or a designee.
Just something to consider how you know. Or
yeah,
maybe it doesn't matter, but because we have that connection to the Sustainability Committee, regardless, they'll see the material. But it just seems like there'll be just the mathematics of it, a higher probability from time to time we might not have a member in the room.
right.
And that could potentially affect the quorum? If that person is a voting member?
Could.
Sure, potentially.
On the other hand, I think there's some value to having a sustainability member who gets to know the ongoing work of the Energy Committee. Builds familiarity.
I think, however, the thought was initially that we need to be working together, both committees. So if the idea is to kind of merge us and keep each other informed what's going on, I think it'd be always good to have somebody from your committee here. So it seems to me there could be somebody appointed or designated, but maybe we should have the opportunity of them designated a designee at the time when they can't be here, so that that information keeps flowing, even if it's not always the same person. Probably will be the same person most of the time, but just to keep the information flow going. Which is, I think, what we were trying to do.
An alternate.
Alternate, yeah.
All right, I think
I think that's feasible.
good. Great. Okay, good change. Last item. Do we want to do any kind of year-end report? We did give this slide deck to the council, so, you know, we're pretty well covered, but I thought I would see if any of the committee members felt we should do a more detailed report. There's a part of the council meeting for committee reports that's at the very start of the agenda. And if there were interest from the members in doing that, I'd be happy to facilitate. So,
My 2 cents is we don't necessarily have anything meaty to update them on right now.
Yeah.
Maybe when we get a little bit further along with Jones Avenue,
okay,
in addition to Jones Avenue, you know, we could give a quick update on other matters, but just, I don't know if there's you know, kind of a substantive packet to update them on at this point. That's just my thought, initial thought.
okay.
How often does this committee update the council on community power statistics, like number of enrollees and rates and things like that?
We don't have a regular update process.
Supposedly, we're going to be getting a new community benefit report from CPC&H. Maybe once we have that in hand, it might be a time for an update, and even perhaps have someone like Jackson or Henry participate to give a synopsis on, you know, community power and how it's benefited Portsmouth.
Yeah,
But I think Jackson said there was some new and improved community benefit report that we were going to start getting on some frequency.
that sounds good. Yeah, I don't know that we need to do monthly. Given the amount of stuff the council gets, but maybe around rate periods would make sense.
Maybe 6 months or so.
Yeah,
That makes sense, yeah.
Council Chair, I was just wondering, is there some benefit, however, to create basically a year-end report just using the highlights that you already listed, the chronological highlights, to make it a formal document, so to speak? Because sometimes things like this don't look official or formal when they're just a bunch of bullet points to say, okay, we did that in February and that in March. If you integrate that into some kind of a formal looking document, I think maybe it will look more serious, even though it is serious work. So I don't know, it's your opinion is there critical for that, because you know how the council operates and the city operates, so.
okay. Yeah,
Because you can obviously narrate that by saying, okay, we wanted to look into this and that's why we did this and this in February, or, you know.
a little more
Yeah,
context.
just a little context and in some type of format that looks official. I don't know, just when it doesn't look official, sometimes people don't take it seriously.
Right. No, it makes sense. And it's good to have on the record.
Yeah.
This was more shorthand.
Yeah, and it's all there.
Draft something. For maybe for December. As opposed to the November 2nd. Why don't I try to have a draft for the committee on our December meeting?
That'd be great.
Thanks for that.
You bet. And other than that, I think we've covered the agenda. Next meeting is first Wednesday of December, which is the 3rd. So just a heads up on that.
One thing you reminded me of is the new rate period end of January, so I guess CPC might be announcing that the end of December, Kevin? Is that their timing? For February 1st or in January?
They have to do it by regulation 30 days prior to the change.
That would be January then probably. No, maybe.
So we could right around the end of December, or January 1st.
Maybe that's on the agenda for this one.
If we have Jackson here, if we have those guys here, we can ask them for a look ahead. No, that would be close enough to know at that point. For the December 3rd meeting, I'm hoping also to have an update on Jones Avenue for us and other research that's happening on rooftop solar in the city. And then we'll have Jackson Kaspari coming back to further discuss the questions that everybody had.
When you say an update on Jones Avenue, would that be like the completion of the study or something else?
The way the city's proceeding is we've hired a firm to help us draft an RFP for the solar developers so that we get responses that can take a number of forms, of ownership, different ownership structures or different financing structures. So the funding that we got is to pay for that. And that firm is now contacted. The update.
Does that include the connection connectivity costs, or I don't know what the terminology is, but we were talking about, we need to assure that we can actually connect. And that's a separate process from this, I think, or is that incorporated in that same process? It's part of that?
Well, Ben's point was we need to get in that queue as early as
Yeah,
possible.
that's what I'm.
Yep, we passed that on to staff.
My understanding, and subject to others here, is that the money from the city is meant to address both this consulting need as well as the cost for the study. But that the eventual cost for interconnection is totally separate.
Yeah, okay,
That's right, the interconnect study,
that's separate, okay.
which has to be done by Eversource, right? So, yeah, we have adequate funding.
So some concept,
Yeah.
Tabor, I'd like to, I just want to mention 2 points, not related to each other, but last time at our last meeting, I mentioned the fact that looking at the renewable energy content of Eversource or its latest disclosure, this green sheet that we always get, I noticed that the content that Eversource used to have, like 23% renewable or something like that, 24%, is down to about half of that, 13% in the latest. And I gave them a copy of that sheet that I got in the mail just last month.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering, how does that affect our basic? Is our basic then also 13% or whatever Eversource is? We're always matching them basically, right?
So
So
I can,
I don't know why exactly it dropped, but there was some reason it did. And that might also be some kind of a motivation to highlight to people that you can upgrade to a higher level again. We give you that option. But I assume that the basic rate, the lowest rate that we have right now matches the same 13% or whatever it was exactly.
Jackson touched on that in this email, saying we've been able to track down an explanation from our Director of Projects and Programs, Mark Bollinger, regarding the question about the renewable content shown on an Eversource invoice.
Okay, so what is the answer to that?
Well, he's saying we've got an answer that he's happy to give us when they get together with us.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So if we can hold,
So they know why it happened.
yeah, so they're responding to your question.
So the second thing I was gonna bring up is, that was just a personal thing. Last time I mentioned that I'm having this balcony solar thing installed on my deck.
Yeah.
And I would like to suggest and invite you, or anyone who's interested, to come see it on this coming Saturday before the weather turns bad. It's up and running now for like 3 days. And if anyone wants to come by anytime, let's say from 11 to 2 or so, let me know. And so we can agree on a time.
I'd be interested to see it.
Yeah, okay, what time would you like to come or can come, Betsy?
That's a great question. I have to look at my kids' schedules, but maybe Peter, if you don't mind sending me your address, we could text and coordinate. That would be good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure. I mean, I'm available pretty much from 11 to 2 for that. So anytime that's convenient for everybody.
Great. Great. I'm unfortunately out of town.
Okay.
A question about the percentage you mentioned. That refers to strictly renewables. It doesn't refer to nuclear.
That's right. That's right. Nuclear is not listed as, it's listed there, but not under the renewable.
What's the percentage of nuclear at the moment?
This is an older thing, so Ben, would you know that right now what their thing is? I gave away the latest one.
I can look it up.
Okay, so on this one here, though, what's it? Here it was 25%, but this is like 4 years old.
Well, Ben, you're looking that up. Can I ask a separate question?
Sure.
I'm on medical leave, so I'm reading a lot more these days, and I've seen all of these RFPs that Clean Energy has shared, and there's one for low to medium income residential solar, and it's quite substantial. Like you can be awarded up to $400,000. And
Wow.
I'm not familiar with the LMI housing projects that are going on in the city right now and whether this might be of interest. Like, I don't know if we should share it with the housing folks, but I don't know. There are a couple in there. That one seemed to be like the most attractive, but there is a deadline for January 29th, and you kind of have to have your stuff together to be able to apply. But I'm sure if we have a project similarly, we could attract some developers and see if they could rally for a January 29th deadline. But I just don't know. I don't know if we have any LMI projects
Yeah.
happening right now.
Fraction system gallery here.
You, only one would be the, well, in terms of Portsmouth Housing Authority, the project at Christchurch on Lafayette.
Okay.
But I
Alright.
think that's still a long ways off from
Okay.
breaking ground.
Thank you.
Got you. Yeah.
So,
I'll look through the scoring related to it, but you do have to have quite a bit of information figured out, like, which again may be doable with architectural renderings and such, but I don't know. I just was scanning and was like, wow, that's we don't usually see large grants in New Hampshire. That seems like a sizable chunk at a really important time when
Yep.
a lot of rebates and incentives are going away right now, so.
Connecticut Light Power,
Great.
not PSI, Connecticut Light Power has a lot of mill stuff.
Could you send us all a link?
It's about a lot of secret.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Oh, it's on the system.
I'll reply to this. I don't know any folks on the housing authority, but if anybody has connections there, and just want to share to see if it might be of interest, that'd be great. Or if you want to send me a contact, I'm happy to follow up too.
Right, right. The PHA's pretty on top of energy credits, but that doesn't mean that this isn't an opportunity that we should share with them. So I'll be happy to relay that to Craig.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Great. Thanks for that.
yeah. Thank you.
I'll touch base with Betsy for Saturday, and when she agrees to a time, I'll send a message out to you guys.
Sounds good.
And as always, no discussion on the emails, just information.
Yeah, just information, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anything else?
Could I mention, the Sustainability Committee, one of the things we're working on lately is, electrifying the school bus fleets.
Okay.
We've brought in somebody who does that consulting work in that area, a lot of useful information. Generally speaking, electric school buses are more expensive than diesel ones. They have a lower long-term operating cost. The initial investment is higher. And this consultant told us that pretty much every school district that has bought them has received some kind of grant from the federal government or a state or something like that. So they don't be feasible to do that, just paying, just out of your pocket for this. So the key thing would be finding some kind of grant money to help purchase that. And then the city would buy it and then let the operator use it, whether it's Student Transportation of America or First Student. We seem to have two companies that are involved with our student transportation. So anyway, and then obviously requires some kind of investment in a charging facility, level 2 charger, whatever the buses are garaged. So we have some basic parameters of it. And next step would be to look into whether any kind of grant money is available to make that happen.
Great.
That's awesome. It's so much better for student health too. Like little kids are the most vulnerable to the emissions from school buses. So really cool that you're exploring this.
Yeah, that's just one of the things the consultant said is that, the drivers love it, the students love it. It's, quieter in the neighborhoods and a great experience for everybody.
Nice.
Oops, sorry.
Balcony.
Oh, the balcony solar. Oh, look at that.
So that's 4 units.
4 units, yeah. Some people only have 2.
I saw it.
Then it's a deck and not a balcony, so they'll have more room.
So the link I'm gonna send has all of the RFPs out now. So I haven't looked to see if there's anything EV related in there, but I'll email you this link now, and that's the full list of RFPs for grants. Oh, excuse me.
Terrific. Yeah. Great. Public comment.
So we have one person on Zoom. Keith, did you want to comment, a public comment? I'll unmute you so you can answer, or I guess you need to unmute yourself if you'd like to answer.
Keith, are you there?
Keith May.
You need to unmute yourself to answer.
PRPS changed.
Anything else?
Excuse me, biomass.
Thank you all. We'll get together December 3rd.
8% of 1%.
Take care.
Thanks,
care.
bye.
A lot of
Thanks,
time.
Betsy. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.